Everyone, and thanks for joining for today's session of Tech Bytes. We're very excited to have you all here. Um, and also, depending on where you're in the world, maybe it might be more of a good night or good afternoon, depending on where you're seated. But regardless, thank you and welcome to the next installment of the AOT Tech Bytes. So this is an online series bringing the AOT community together wherever we are in the world. So the goal of the series is to bring about connection within our community of ocean technology practitioners. So thank you for being a part of this movement to make our oceans more accessible. So the layout for today's call, we'll be hearing from our featured speakers, Lizzie Murray and Jethan. Tech Bytes is intended to be bite-sized, so we'll have about 15 minutes for the talk and about 10 minutes for questions. After their talk, we'll be breaking out into breakout groups. So this will be for about 20 minutes. The breakout groups are intended to be a space for connection. So this provides an opportunity to chat with peers, build relationships across the global ocean tech community because we're all not in one place at the same time. Before we jump into the talk, we'd like to share, a few community announcements. So as we all know, there's a lot of efforts happening across the globe, all to make our oceans more accessible. So here's just a few highlights. So the first one I'll kick off. It's a QR code soup. Apologies there. But makes it a little bit easier as opposed to putting hyperlinks. There's the AOT community website. We have it live. So if you're interested in hearing about some of the things going on in the AOT space, you can go ahead and join the AOT community. There's also a plug here for Scoop. This is an AOT comprehensive catalog of AOT devices. So you're interested in looking for those or providing your own device there, go ahead and give that QR code a scan in the center. And then two timely announcements. The first of which is that Start Blue, which is based in San Diego, and actually we have Cannon here online, so that's perfect. Cannon, I'll plug the announcement. If you have anything to add to it, then I'll pass it over to you. Yeah. All right. Well, so Start Blue is Start Blue Ocean Enterprise Accelerator is accepting for their fall application cohort, and so eligible startups can apply for about $20,000 to $150,000 in non-dilutive funding awards. So there's a webinar happening on June 12th, and Cannon, is there anything else you want to say there for the Start Blue Enterprise?
No, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing it out. I'll put the link, excuse me, I'll put the link to the webinar information session in the chat as well. And yeah, I can put my email if you have any questions at all. We'd love to share more information and welcome your applications.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Cannon. The next is that there's a Synchro Show and Tell Tech series. The next webinar is going to be happening on June 17th. And so these are also bite-sized, if you will, 30-minute webinars. And the next one will be featuring Ocean Space as they're introducing their aquatic imager. And so you can register at the bottom QR code. You can also sign up for the Synchro newsletter as well. Amy, is there anything else with regards to the Show and Tell Tech webinar that you want to add?
No, just come, it's for a little bit of everyone. It's for all sorts of folks. So if you know someone else that's interested, please send them the registration. And bring your questions.
Thanks so much, Amy. And the last bit of timely news here is a shout out to Twilighted. So Twilighted is a group within the AOT, kind of deep AOT space. And they're now recognized as a UN Ocean Decade project within the UN Ocean Decade program. So if you want to hear more about their program, you can go ahead and scan their QR code there as well. But we also want to hear from the room. So if folks have any news that they want to share, whether it's announcements or even promoting for an event, if you guys have an announcement you want to share, please go ahead and unmute yourself and give a plug. If not, we can also share it out later on in the chat. So no problems either way. Alrighty, well, now we'll go ahead and get started with our programming. So keep in mind the community announcements, and we'll go ahead and get started with our speakers. So today I have the honor of welcoming to the floor Lizzie and Jethan. Lizzie is the founder of A Liquid Future and Surfer Scientists. These are initiatives dedicated to democratizing ocean science and access by empowering surfers and coastal communities to collect and contribute coastal data. We'll hear much more about it, but one cool highlight is that they're using accessible technology such that everyday ocean users can become active contributors to marine data collection and stewardship, and also support local decision making. So truly fabulous initiatives. And working with Lizzie is Jethan. He is a senior technician with the South African Polar Research Institute, who specializes in oceanographic instrumentation and field operations. He's also co-PI on the Coastal Lab in a Box, and the Ocean's Best Practices Task Team for Coastal Observations for Under-Resourced Countries. So we have two wonderful speakers. We're looking forward to hearing what they have to share. So with that, Lizzie and Jethan, please go ahead and take it away. Wonderful. And we can see your browser right now, Lizzie. Oh, perfect. Now we can see Canva. Fabulous. And Lizzie, you are muted, just to let you know. Oh, sorry, Lizzie, do you mind unmuting real quickly?
Oops.
There you go.
All right. Okay, hang on one sec and let me go back to my screen. Sorry, I don't normally use Zoom. One sec. Okay, yes, are we there? We can hear and see. Great.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So, hi everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm Lizzie from A Liquid Future. Today I'll introduce surfer scientists, a community-led coastal intelligence system, and then hand over to my great colleague Jethan from SAON to explain more about some of the technologies. So I'm a surfer, and for more than a decade, I lived and worked alongside coastal communities across some of Indonesia's remotest islands. And during that time, it became clear that the knowledge of people spending the most time in and alongside the ocean rarely found its way into systems informing decisions, while they lacked predictive technologies. At the same time, ocean tech was becoming increasingly accessible. So we asked, how do we connect people, technology, and decision-making? And Surfer Scientists was born. So the next slide. So just to give you a quick overview, it's a community-led coastal intelligence system. We embed accessible sensing technologies into everyday surf activities, including sea surface and wave energy sensors that Jethan's going to chat more about, and a surf zone data app, tidal gauges, and drones, enabling inclusive participation, particularly of women and youth, in generating surf zone data. So this turns surf communities into distributed coastal monitoring networks. And these communities live alongside highly valuable coastal assets, surf breaks. Yet they often lack access to the data and decision systems that shape their future. So we collect this locally generated data into a shared intelligence platform, a multi-layered dashboard, accessible to communities, public authorities, national governments, and partners, such as eModNet, Goose, Global Ocean Accounts Partnership. And we follow data standards, ocean best practices, with integration into global observing and modeling systems. So in doing so, we're looking to create a decision infrastructure in this surf zone, one of the most dynamic and least observed parts of the ocean. So one of the greatest opportunities for accessible ocean tech is this nearshore zone where people live, coastal economies operate, and climate impacts are often first felt. Yet it remains one of the least observed parts of the oceans. surfers are uniquely positioned to help fill this critical nearshore data gap, because we don't mind being in that zone. We don't mind getting tumbled around in return for some good waves. And we spend thousands of hours every year exactly when many observing systems lose resolution. Many surf breaks are located in remote coastal regions that are biodiversity hotspots, vulnerable to climate impacts, and underrepresented in traditional observing systems. You can surf from Yemen to Sierra Leone, Iceland. There's very broad scope. So by embedding low-cost distributed sensing into coastal communities, we generate surf zone data that can feed into modelling and forecasting systems, improving accuracy and also local relevance. And crucially, we bring scale through people. There are over 35 million surfers globally, many in climate vulnerable regions, including small island developing states. And they represent a distributed and highly engaged observation network because they're embedded in these environments every day, and they bring their deep knowledge and therefore are quite uniquely positioned to observe changes in real time. So again, that doesn't just improve the outputs and accuracy, it also makes them usable, trustable, and actionable at the local level. And just to say a little bit about where we've been carrying out pilots, we're beginning to explore this approach with partnerships in Asia, Africa with SAON, and South America, with growing demand from surf organizations and enterprises globally. We're collaborating with SAON, with Atlantic Collab in Portugal, and with Global Ocean Accounts Partnership, ensuring alignment with global observing decision frameworks. We've co-developed and piloted a surf sensor with SAON, and we're developing a multi-stakeholder coastal intelligence dashboard with Collab and GOPE, and looking to include social data, particularly with GOA, into their ocean accounts frameworks. We're still learning and testing, but these pilots are helping us understand how locally generated surf zone data can be integrated into broader systems and used by both communities and decision makers. It's designed to scale rapidly, it's low cost, it builds on existing communities and accessible technology. And one of the technologies is the SurfSense app. So now I'd like to hand over to Jethan, who's going to explain more about that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lizzie. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, it should be. I've stopped, so it should come.
I'm just going to share my entire screen. Can you see that?
In the PowerPoint program.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I can't see anyone, but that's okay. So yeah, this is a collaboration with many people, and so yeah, it was going to take over the whole slide to list everyone, but I just wanted to make mention of our technology partner, C Technology Services, and so they've been helping us quite a lot to, well, they are the engineers that have actually developed this, but through our guidance, or we speak to them about what our needs are, and then they come up with something clever. So yeah, as Lizzie said, that there's a substantial gap in data in the nearshore environment globally. But there's a lot of users that actually are in this environment and are willing to spend time there. So it would be amazing if we could equip all of these ocean users with a sensor that can help plug this gap, but also provide them with some metrics to help them, inform them of what they're doing and, you know, how they're doing, and how many, for a surfer, how many waves they've caught, or a swimmer, how far they've swum. And so this is where the SurfSense sensor comes in. So this sensor is a prototype at the moment, and we are looking to scale up the manufacturing. So it's a wearable sensor, so you can put it around your ankle or your wrist or wherever you are more comfortable attaching it. And it collects temperature data, so water temperature data, and it's got an IMU accelerometer, so we are able to calculate wave parameters. The idea with the sensor is to make it as accessible as possible, so we've used off-the-shelf components, so there's very little custom engineering, and there are, because it was a prototype, there are some bits and pieces that are a bit more custom than what would normally be. So, it's like the parts would be like the actual electronics, the circuit board, or 3D printed parts. But we are hoping that these can be made less custom for the future. The sensors also got wireless charging, so there's no and using off-the-shelf parts, so you could go into any electronic store and buy any of these components and put them together. But also the wireless charging just makes it that much easier to use. There's also a saltwater switch, so there's less. So you just attach it and go for your surf or your swim or whatever you're doing, and it'll turn on and start collecting data. We are then also working on a mobile app for a smartphone where you can connect to the sensor and download all the data, get all the metrics that you would be interested in, and then also share this data with global databases such as EDMONet, etc. So this is sort of what the app looks like. The app itself collects the GPS location, so we purposefully didn't put the GPS sensor into the actual surf sensor unit because it increases the cost, but also we figured that the sensor is going to hopefully be underwater most of the time, and so you won't get a GPS location anyway, and so it'll reduce the cost, save on battery power, and we can still get a rough idea of where you were through the app. And then through the app, it'll also then take all the raw IMU data and calculate your wave parameters and your acceleration, G-force, anything like that. And obviously show you the water temperature. And then crucially, to make this accessible to everyone, not just native English speakers like myself, we have the app translated into multiple languages, and we can translate it into more depending on the need. So calibration is obviously quite important, and so we're looking at using the spotter buoy from So Far Ocean. These buoys measure both temperature and waves, and they are a fairly low cost platform. So it would be quite nice to be able to validate the data against that. And then, like Lizzie mentioned, data management is also very important, and so yeah, we're looking at setting up ODAP servers to share our data globally. And then I forgot to mention that through the app you need to register, create a little account, but all social data will be anonymized through the shared data. And if there's any other ideas on what is needed, we're open to suggestions. So then this has gone very quickly, but our next steps then is we need to industrialize the sensor, so that the sensor that I've shown you has been a prototype. And so we've applied for local funding to scale up the product, or to get the sensor industrialized, to make it easier to scale up the manufacturing. The app at the moment only works on Android, but we need to develop an iOS app. And that, from what I understand, is fairly easy with the way that we've developed the app. And then we need to set up the data pipelines, and we've got some work already ongoing with that. Yeah, so thank you very much. That's the surf sensor.
Thanks both so much for the presentations. And we have about 10 minutes for questions. So if folks in the audience have some questions, please unmute and yeah, ask questions. Otherwise, I can start if folks. Right. Oh, go ahead. Or Amy, sorry.
Colin, go ahead. I couldn't find the raise hand fast enough. You beat me.
Hi, Jethan and Lizzie. Thanks so much. That's super cool. I was curious, the surf zone, as you mentioned, that's a space where pretty difficult to get data, and we tend to have a pretty big gap there as far as observing within that space. Are you finding with the technology that you are starting to fill some of those gaps? So I don't know if like some of the surfers are in spaces where there already are sensors, and if you've been able to do any comparisons between what they're able to log versus spaces where there may not be buoys or sensors already logging some of that data.
So I can take this one. So the sensor isn't unique in that we're not the only sensor that's been developed for surfers. But what we are trying to do is make it a lot more accessible in terms of not just for surfers, but it can also be multi-user. It can be used by multiple users. And so with other projects, so our project is still very new, and so we're still quite limited in actual testing. But from what we've seen with other projects is that it has been quite vital. They've been able to collect quite a lot of data in that zone where there hasn't been other data sources.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, what immediately comes to mind are I don't know, like Half Moon Bay, where there's a pretty large surf community, but there's also NOAA sensors that are logging a lot of things. So it would be super cool to have some of those surfers or kayakers or whoever like gathering some of that data and just comparing.
And it would be really nice to use those that as like a comparison to make sure that the data that the AOT sensors are collecting is actually, good and useful.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Thanks so much.
Yeah, maybe following that, I think similarly. So if I understand the surf sense, that's the one sensor that you're using for this project. There's not multiple sensors, right? So okay, if I was curious, so if I understand, if you're paddling far out, since there's no GPS, you wouldn't have distance offshore necessarily, but would you, I guess it's mostly surfers, so I'm thinking of kayakers too, but if it's on your arm and say maybe you're surfing, how do you differentiate between like the wave movement and your arm movement when you're paddling? Is that like a thing?
Yeah, so we haven't quite figured this out for swimmers and kayakers yet.
Okay.
But for surfers, what we do is, what we've realized is that surfers spend most of their time waiting for a wave. And so we can use that when they are sitting still, not doing much. We basically turn on what we've called a virtual buoy mode. So they'll be just bobbing around, not moving much, and we can use that time to we pull out just that period where they're not doing anything, and we can then calculate the waves.
That makes more sense. Okay, cool. Because unless you're in Mavericks, and then you're like, okay, here we go. Thanks.
Yeah, we've just to add to that, we've actually experimented with putting it into a small pocket on a leash, a leg rope. It goes in really easily to that. It's around your ankle, which is then sitting in the water, and it doesn't run the chances of kind of being knocked off if it's attached to the board, or obviously if it's on your hand out of the water for long periods, or as you said, with the paddling.
We can't hear you, Jess.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, better.
Better? Okay, great. Emily, go ahead and please go ahead and ask the question.
Thanks. I was disciplined and waiting my turn. Sorry, I'm preparing dinner in the kitchen here, so a bit challenging. Jethan, you mentioned that you would be interested to hear about whether the parameters could be interesting and to look into. And I was wondering, because you have the wave height, and then I think this is quite unique because the temperature, we have devices that measure the temperature. So the wave height is actually a quite interesting parameters when it comes to cost-effective sensors. And I was wondering if you had any discussion with people who work on modeling waves and things like that, because maybe there are some key parameters that they could benefit from to be added. I am not a specialist, so I don't know, but I think they would be the one I would talk with, I think.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. Thank you. I haven't, this project has sort of come on quite quickly, so we haven't, let's stop, drop and roll. But yeah, we definitely need to start those conversations.
I had another question, if I may, which is, I missed it. As I say, I prepared dinner, sorry. How is the connection? So when to get the data in the app, is it an NFC, or how do you get the data onto the phone?
So with this version, it is a Wi-Fi connection, but with the commercialization step, when we do the commercialization, it will be a Bluetooth connection.
Bluetooth, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, because you mentioned that it would not be so much challenging to translate the software from Android to iOS, and I mean, from some other devices, we have experienced that it's not that straightforward actually to go from Android to iPhone. It's not so, and I think I finally get hold of the developer who actually developed that device. And I think it's very much linked with the NFC connection, which is why I'm asking. Again, I'm not an expert there, just sharing knowledge gathered along the way.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the room? Otherwise, I do have one quick one as well. All right, I'll steal a moment for a second. I had a question with regards to the users. A lot of them are actually younger students out in the coastal communities. You said you're also engaging with a lot of the girls in the community as well. And how have they found kind of interacting with the device and also interacting with the web app? It seems relatively straightforward, the web app. And I just wanted to hear a bit more about how the community has engaged with it, and especially the younger students.
So there's been very limited trials. We've had most of the trials have been actually at showcasing them at conferences with Patrick and Lizzie and others. So we haven't quite yet had with these specific sensors with like school kids, but it's definitely on the cards to do that very soon. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything, Lizzie.
Yeah, I would just say from more remoter communities where we've interacted, it's worked fairly well. as long as it's easy to facilitate. So, for example, having we've tried with some other sensors in the leash, etc., who also looks after the sensors and how the technological upload works. Maybe to mention just a little bit about drone use as well, which we've piloted and used on the reefs with the girls in particular, and that's gone very well. It also becomes a storytelling tool, and also one to convey local story and situation. So that one crosses over into other skills and other areas too, more a sort of the social aspects and education aspect to it.
Cool. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I know that it's always an iterative process, but it's very exciting to hear that there's a lot of positive feedback and uptake there, especially for storytelling as well. Well, wonderful. Are there any other questions for our featured speakers? Otherwise, we'll give them a giant round of applause. Oh, Amy, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question too.
I had it, sorry, in the chat box and I never hit send. So, oh no, just curious about if I missed this, sorry, about some of the social data that you want to collect, what that might look like.
So in the SurfSense app, it's just like a username, email address, gender, age, that sort of thing. But then for the broader project, we're working with keep forgetting the university's name, but Irish University, and they want to do a more broader demographics social survey. Yeah, and that all that sort of information will feed into the dashboard.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I could just add a little bit to that. It's with University College Cork and the Murray Centre, and with a friend, David White, who's an anthropologist that's been involved with designing frameworks for social data uptake, and then also with the Global Ocean Accounting Partnership. We've been liaising with them because they've been developing economic and environmental accounting frameworks within their spatial data frameworks. And they're now looking to include a social aspect to that. And so with surface scientists, we're looking to pilot the community data gathering, including the spatial data, that then aligns with their spatial data framework at country level for different countries with that social data. Exactly what social data to collect and how to aggregate it, and what will be most appropriate, I think will vary a lot. Also, with some of the surfing, we're hoping we can look at like gender use of the surf break and the space carrying capacity as well, just to give some examples.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for sharing your insights, and also for being our featured speakers today. If we can all give a round of applause, whether virtually or in our camera. Very nice, very nicely done. Thank you very much.